Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Don. I haven't done a live stream in a couple of weeks because I was traveling back to the United States to visit my family and friends. Obviously, traveling these days is a little more difficult than it usually is. I had to jump through a lot of hoops to get here. Jump through hoops. So if you don't know this phrase, it means to go through a very difficult or complicated procedure to accomplish something. So this idiom, jump through hoops, comes from the circus, where animal trainers would get different animals like dogs, snakes, birds, and lions to go through or jump through a hoop, a circular tube. It takes some hard training to get animals like lions to jump through a hoop. So we use this idiom when we talk about any task that takes hard or complicated work to accomplish, right? So that's it. That's my introduction. Let me just say hello to all the people who are saying hello to me. Hello to all of you. Aruna Sharma, Rilat Perez, Sohail Khan, and everybody who's saying hello. Someone saying hello from Kurdistan. Did you know that I lived in Kurdistan for a couple of years? Good to hear from you. All right, great. All right, well, let's start our live stream for today. So I've got 4 segments prepared for today's live stream. And remember, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the chat and I will be happy to answer them at the end in segment 4. All right, so today I've got a segment on travel terms. I've got a segment on summer weather. I've got a segment on this day in history. And then at the end, I'll have a segment where I answer your questions and comments. So let's get started. All right, so let's start with travel terms. Travel terms. So to get back to the US, I had to jump through some hoops, like I said. And then I had to make a long trek to return home. Now, what is a trek? A trek is a long, difficult journey. Often, a trek is a journey that we make on foot, but it doesn't have to be. In fact, trek is commonly used in a joking way to tell other people that you made a difficult journey, but it wasn't really that terrible. So someone might come into work and say, wow, it was a real trek trying to get into work today. So they're trying to be funny and say, oh, it's a little difficult trying to get to work. Now, this word trek can be a noun or a verb. As a noun, you use it like this. I made a long trek back home. That indicates that your journey home was difficult and maybe a little tiring. My trip back home took almost 20 hours, and I was awake the whole time. So I think of it as a trek. Now, as a verb, we can use trek like this. On my last holiday, I trekked through the jungle. Or we were trekking through Cairo last September. Trekked, trekking. So different versions of the verb trek. Now, trek is an unusual looking word because we borrowed it from another language. Trek comes from Afrikaans, which is a language spoken in South Africa. Trek is also the name of a brand of bicycles. You can buy a Trek bicycle. And then there was also a well-known television program called Star Trek, which was a science fiction show about people traveling, trekking between the stars. Now, one thing that I wanted from my vacation was a change of scenery. Change of scenery is a phrase we use meaning to move to some different surroundings. Some people feel that having the same surroundings day after day can get boring. But if you make a change of scenery, this might do your brain some good. A change of scenery can really improve your mood. It's a feeling that a lot of people have, that a change of scenery can improve your mood. Now, you can make a small change of scenery by rearranging the furniture in your home, or adding pictures to the wall, or painting the walls a different color. Or you can make a big change of scenery by going to a different place or a different country. In my case, I came back home where I haven't been for almost 2 years. That was a pretty big change of scenery for me. How about you? Do you need a small or a big change of scenery? During the pandemic, lots of people might be starting to feel a little bored looking at the same 4 walls around them every day. So you might need a change of scenery as well. Another thing I wanted to do on my vacation this year was recharge my batteries. Now, this is a phrase that we use to mean regain strength and energy by resting and relaxing for a while. I needed to get away from work and recharge my batteries. So the origin of this phrase, recharge batteries, is pretty easy to guess. A battery stores electric energy. So if you have a laptop phone, a laptop or a cell phone, it has a battery, and your battery has a charge of energy. When you use your laptop or your phone, the charge goes down, the battery goes down. And so then what do? You plug in your laptop or you plug in your phone and you recharge the battery. You put some more energy back into it. And it's the same idea applied to our minds or to our mood. We have a certain amount of energy to do work. And when that energy is used up, it's time to recharge your batteries. So there you go. What do you like to do to recharge your batteries? How do you recharge your batteries? For me, I decided to visit my friends and family here in the US. But one problem with coming back home is dealing with the oppressive weather. And that's our second segment for today, summer weather. So how are the summers where you live? Is the summer humid or is it dry? Humid and humidity. So these are words that talk about how much moisture or water there is in the air, water vapor in the air. A lot of moisture in the air means there is high humidity. And usually the humidity will be given as a percentage. So today, where I am, it's 30 degrees Celsius with 86% humidity, which means the air is 86% full of water vapor, meaning as much as it can take, almost as much as it can take. When the weather is humid, then people usually sweat a lot. I know I do. And when the humidity reaches 100%, there's a strong possibility that it will rain. Some countries like Indonesia, Thailand, or South Korea, or Cambodia will usually have high humidity. Where I live in the southern United States, it gets very humid in the summer. But other places, the humidity is low. They have a dry heat in the summer. So when I lived in Iraq, the heat was very strong, but it wasn't humid. It was dry, like inside an oven. In countries with dry heat, you usually want to find a good shade in the summer, like standing under a big tree. So most places, it's hot in the summer, but it's hot in a different way. It can be humid or hot and dry. And there's different levels of heat, right? There's different levels of heat. It'd be hotter and hotter and hotter. And how do we talk about that? Well, let me show you some different adjectives we use to describe the weather when it's hot. Our first is warm. So warm means it's hot, but it's pleasant and enjoyable. We might say that it's warm. It's warm today. That means it's the heat is high, but it feels comfortable. It's not bad. It's hot in a way you like and enjoy. Then the next level up, you might say it's scorching. That's when it's hot and it feels like it's burning you. You can say, it's scorching today. Scorch is a verb that means to burn the surface of something. So when you describe the weather as scorching, you're saying it feels like it's hot enough to burn you. And then boiling, that's our next one, boiling. When it's so hot that you feel like an egg in a pot of boiling water, you could say the weather is boiling. So usually high humidity and high heat will give you the feeling of, oh, the weather is boiling. Boil is also a verb meaning to bring water to such a high heat that it boils off into steam. So if you cook, if you like to cook, we often use boiling and making boiled food in cooking. But it also can describe the weather. Our next word, sweltering. Sweltering is when it's so hot that it's just uncomfortable, terrible. You feel like you might melt. Then you could say, oh, the heat today is sweltering. It's a sweltering heat. So that's usually going to be so high humidity, high heat, really unpleasant. But what if it's dry but very hot? Well, then here's our last adjective for the heat, torrid. Torrid is when the weather is very dry, but also uncomfortably hot, like in the desert. Desert weather is torrid weather. So think about the afternoon sun in the desert beating down on you and the feeling that all the moisture is evaporating, vanishing around you, burned away. That is torrid weather, really hot and really dry, like a desert. Okay, how's the summer weather where you live? Is it humid or is it dry? Is the temperature high or is it warm, comfortable? Today, where I live, it's going to be sweltering with high heat and very high humidity. So I'm going to stay inside where it's cool. All right, let's forget the heat for a moment and take a look at our third segment for today, which is about this day in history, July 30. So July 30, 1935, the paperback revolution begins. Now, what does that mean? So on this day in 1935, Penguin Books published the first mass market paperback books, and it became very successful. So when I think about books, I think about a hard cover with fragile paper pages inside. So for many years, after books were first made, they were pretty expensive to buy. It took a lot of time to make the hard backs and to sew the pages into the covers there. Books with hard covers we refer to as hardbacks. So a hardback or a hardcover book is a book with rigid protective covers, usually made of board, cloth, heavy paper, or even leather. But in 1935, Penguin Books began to publish a series of books where the outside cover was paper, similar to the paper pages inside. So these books were cheaper and easier to produce. Today, we call books like this paperbacks. So a paperback or a soft cover book is a book with thick paper or paperboard cover, and it's usually held together with glue. It's not sewn in, it's glued in, right? So a paperback book is usually less durable than hardback books. So paperback, they don't last as long, but they're easy to make and they're cheap to buy. So in 1935, Penguin Books started publishing paperback books for mass market, and they were very successful. In their first year, they sold 3 million books, which in 1935 was pretty good. That's a lot. So before 1935, there were paperbacks made and sold, but What Penguin did is they made good quality paperbacks that could last a little bit longer, and the contents of the book were more interesting. They were higher quality. So most of the paperbacks made before 1935 were something that we call pulp fiction. Pulp fiction, what does that mean? So that's a kind of book that's meant to be read and sold in large quantities, but then thrown away, turned back into pulp. So pulp means a mass. So these paper books, you were supposed to buy it and read it and then throw it away, and they'll mush it back down and make it into new paper. So that was the idea of pulp fiction. It wasn't something you kept. You didn't keep it. You just threw it away. And Pulp Fiction is also the name of a 1994 movie, which was very popular. So what Penguin Books did in 1935 was they made some paperback books that were good enough that people would keep them. They wouldn't throw them away. And even today, there are some paperbacks made with just that idea in mind. And actually, Penguin Books is also still around. All right. So now let's take a look at some of your questions and comments. If you have more questions and comments for me, please leave them in the chat. Let's go back and take a look at some things that you guys have had to say. All right. So we've got some hellos from people from various places: Kurdistan, Myanmar, and all over the place. Algeria. Okay, I bet it's pretty hot and dry there in Algeria. Noel from Bolivia saying hello. I think I'm going to be the first viewer I've seen from Bolivia. That's great. Mauritania, great. Cambodia, okay. I've been to Cambodia. I bet it's pretty hot and humid there. And Nguyen Duc Thai is asking, can you help me? I speak English. And from Vietnam, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. I'll try to help you out. Keep watching our live streams, and maybe you'll learn a little more English yourself. Salmoy U is saying hello from Myanmar. Good to hear from you as well. Diana Proptica is saying hello from Indonesia. Great. Song Nan is saying hello to you. Getting a greeting from Iraq. Aruna Sharma is saying, only a person watching this? No, I think there's more than one. There's more than one watching it. Okay, hello from Vietnam. Okay. My guest says, hello, I love it. That's great. We love that you're here watching. Abdulaziz Al-Borey is saying hello to our great teacher. Wow, thank you very much. I'm very humbled. Another person from Cambodia is saying hello. Good to see you. Wagner Moreno is saying, could you talk about some American idioms? I think I did have a couple of American idioms. One was jumping through hoops. That's a very common American idiom that I use a lot. So I hope that one, you can use that one for all kinds of things. Hello from Poland. Great to hear from you, Barbara. And hello from Florida March. Another person from Myanmar. Great. Liam saying hello. All right. Sarah Peltier, great to hear from you. Naylin is saying thanks. Someone from Somalia. Bashi Abdi is saying hello from Somalia. Great to have you join us. Diana Practica is asking, what is the means of what a habit? A habit. What a habit? I don't know that phrase quite that way. What a habit. I know what a habit is. A habit. It's a word meaning something that you do regularly, something that you do routinely, commonly. So you could say, I have a habit of getting up early in the morning, meaning my usual practice is to get up early, or drinking coffee. It can be a habit. But habits can also be bad. Like sometimes people say, oh, I have a smoking habit. I want to break that habit. I smoke too much. I want to quit smoking. Someone's saying today is warm in Scotland. Okay, great. Good to hear from you up there. That's excellent. Faye Soriano saying thank you for teaching the English language. Okay, thank you for learning. All right. Okay, now some people are talking about their weather. That's great. So Azad Niyaz is saying it's sweltering. Yes. Yes, sweltering heat, very hot and unpleasant. Okay, so Miura Raza Mari is saying, oh, today is cold in Madagascar. So Now that's something about the Earth. So if you're above the equator, then it's hot in the summer and cold in the winter. But if you're below the equator, like in Madagascar or Indonesia, or maybe in South America, then it will be in the opposite. It will actually be hot in the winter and cold in the summer. Well, the months that we think of. So I bet in Madagascar, it gets hot when it's January and February. That's your summertime, is the January and February months. Whereas here, June, July, August are in the northern hemisphere of Earth. That's the summer for us. So that's an interesting comment, but brings up an interesting fact about the planet that we live on. Okay, where am I from? I am from the United States, which is where I am broadcasting to you from today. Okay, the heat in Myanmar today is torrid. Okay, torrid, very hot, but also dry. All right. What is my name? I'm Dr. Don. Okay, good to hear from you. Here's another person from Algeria, another from Iraq, and another from Vietnam. Several from Vietnam today, several from Iraq today. It's great to have all of you with us. Sri Lanka, excellent. And someone from Egypt. I think that might be the first I've seen saying hello from Egypt. Egypt also usually pretty torrid weather there in Egypt. Greetings from Kurdistan and Pakistan, another person from Algeria. And one of our Vietnamese guests is asking, how are you? I'm fine. I'm very well today. How are you? Okay. And then Agbayani Ira is saying, hello, I'm watching from the Philippines. And Sam Shanawani is saying, hello, I'm from Damascus, Syria. Okay, wonderful. One of my friends is also from Syria. Yes, so wonderful to hear from you. I'm getting have a great day, teacher from Cambodia. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great day today as well. Torrid, it means very hot. Yes, it does mean very hot, but it also means hot and dry. So think of desert heat rather than jungle heat is torrid. How to apply for higher studies in USA? How can we get a scholarship? That is a very difficult question to answer, but there are many things you can look at online which might give you some guidance on that. It's a little difficult these days due to COVID, I'm afraid, but it can still be done. So, but you might want to take a look at something, a helpful site online. Let's see. Hi from Libya. Good to hear from you. And hi from Nepal. But it looks like the characters in the language, those look like Japanese characters. So that's interesting little combination there. Oh, greetings from Buenos Aires. Okay, great. Great to hear from somebody in Argentina. That's wonderful. More from Egypt, Algeria, and Iraq. That's great. Okay. And someone from Thailand. I recognize the Thai writing on your name. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, though. Okay. I'm from Earth. Amon says he's from Earth. We're all from Earth. It's great. Okay. Very good from here to hear from you. To give us your Facebook, you can certainly go use the English Danny Paper English page, Facebook. You're already watching us on Facebook, so you can watch us there. All right, so if anybody has any questions and any more questions and comments, I'll be happy to take a look at those. Let's see if there were any other questions in the list. And I've got my coffee because it's 9 o'clock in the morning for me. So I definitely need some coffee to get going here. So from Peru, good morning. Can I use very hot or very warm? Yes, you can. You could say, oh, it's very hot today. It's very warm today. Yes, both of them work. So very is an intensifier, meaning it can be a little hot or it can be very hot. So it can be hot. A little hot means it's not that hot, a little bit, or very means it's a lot. And same thing with warm. So warm, remember, means it's hot, but in a comfortable way. So it's a little warm means a little comfortable, but very warm means the heat is high, but it still feels good. It's still comfortable. So very works, but also a little works, a little or very. So remember, little is down here, and very is up here. So yes, you can use very hot, very warm. That works. Or if it's cold, same thing there. It's very cold. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Any more questions? Let me scroll through some of the comments here. I think I answered. Okay. So there was a greeting from Puerto Rico. So I don't want to forget. And from Morocco. Excellent. Let's see. Okay. So here's a comment. I want to improve my. Okay. Let me do this one, and then I'll go to the improve my English speaking. So can we use very happy or happy exceedingly? I would say very happy. If you want to say happy, you wouldn't say happy exceedingly. Reverse the order. You would say I'm exceedingly happy, because exceedingly in this case is modifying. It's used as an adjective here. So it would come first. So you'd say, oh, I'm exceedingly happy. Now that sounds a little more formal when you say it that way. So if you say something is exceedingly good or exceedingly happy, that sounds a little more formal. So you wouldn't use it with your friends unless you're trying to be funny or you wanted to, for some reason, sound a little more serious. But very happy is common and usable in any situation. I'm very happy today. You could say that to your boss. You could say that to your friend. You could say that in almost any context. But exceedingly happy is something that you might say if you're writing a letter to someone saying, thank you for coming. Say, thank you for coming to my wedding. We were exceedingly happy to have you there. So in a letter that you wrote or in something you were saying in a formal way, maybe you're talking to your boss. Oh, sir, I was exceedingly happy that you gave me the raise that I asked for. In that context, you would say it that way because you're trying to be very polite and be very respectful towards your boss. So yeah, you would say it exceedingly happy. And then very happy you can use in any context. Yeah, so I'm very happy. I'm very happy you asked that question. Okay, so someone says, I want to improve my English speaking, but I'm very scarce about it, or maybe scared about it. Can you tell me what I can do? So if you want to improve your English speaking, but you're scared about it, there's some different things that you can do. One technique that I use is I practice at home with I get some program when I'm learning another language. I get some program where someone is reading the words and then they pause to let me repeat it. You could also do something like use Siri or a similar program, like something on your phone where it responds to your voice commands. Change it to English and start giving it English commands and see if it responds correctly to what you're asking it to do. So you're practicing English with your phone, saying, Siri, look up today's weather. And then if it looks up today's weather, then you know that you pronounced it correctly enough for the algorithm, for the computer to understand you. That might be a way to practice your pronunciation of English in a way that nobody's watching you, nobody's listening to you, so your fear can be done away with. So that might be a trick that you can use to get better at pronouncing or speaking English without being too scared. There may be other techniques, but that's one you can try. Let's see. Let me see if I can find some more questions and comments. All right. What does set out mean? Okay. So what does set out mean? And by the way, have a nice day. Thank you very much. I hope you have a nice day as well. So to set out means to begin something, to begin a journey. So I set out from my house on a 100-mile journey. So it can mean to begin something. But set out has another meaning. So there's a second meaning of that phrase, set out. And so that second meaning is to arrange or display something in a particular way. So I set out some flowers on the table. And that means I arranged some flowers on the table in a certain way. So set out can mean to begin, but it can also mean to set something in a particular way, to arrange it in a particular way. Okay. What is the difference between happen and occur? Okay, well, there actually is a lot of overlap between those. So They both can mean to take place. So something that can happen can occur. Something that can occur can happen. So there's not a whole lot of difference between them. The big difference, if there is one, is that happen has a feeling of randomness, meaning it just happened. We didn't expect it. Somebody happened by. So someone happened by, you would use to mean, oh, they came by at random or unexpectedly. You wouldn't say someone occurred by, because occur has the feeling of it was reasonable, logical, inevitable. It had to happen that way. Okay, so while there is a lot of overlap, both of those words mean something took place, something happened, something occurred. Happen also has the meaning of it happened, it occurred randomly, unexpectedly. And so we have this word hap or happenstance, which means random occurrence. Occur doesn't work that way. So you can't say, oh, it just occurred. You could say something occurred to you, meaning you thought of it, it came to you, but it doesn't necessarily mean randomly. So I think that's the biggest difference, that happen has a feeling of something that occurred randomly, whereas occur doesn't necessarily mean randomly. Okay, that's the difference. When can I use wet for weather conditions? Okay, so you can use wet. You can use wet when it's rainy or when it's humid. So if it's very humid, it's not necessarily raining, but it feels, the air feels wet. You can say, oh, it's kind of wet weather today because it feels wet. You're going to get sweaty. But also when it rains or when it's raining or after it rained. So after it rained, you know how the ground, there's still water on the ground. You can still say the weather is wet because the ground is wet with the rain that happened. All right, let's see. So someone is asking to put something in perspective, to put something in perspective. Okay, so to put something in perspective. I heard this phrase, but I don't know what it means. Okay, so perspective. Your perspective is the angle at which you're looking at something, right? So here's my perspective. I'm looking straight ahead. If I go like this, my perspective is I'm looking down. And if I go like this, my perspective is I'm looking up, right? Okay, so those are different perspectives. Do you know how when you look at something from a different perspective, it looks differently? So that's the idea. To put something in perspective means to put it in a new way, or to put it in a way where you can see it, either see it differently or see it properly. So that's the idea. So to put something in perspective means to put something at an angle at which you can see it for what it really is, or see it in a new way. So that's what that means. So remember, so it comes from perspective, meaning the angle at which you look at something. So here's an angle, here's an angle, here's an angle. These are different perspectives, right? These are different perspectives. See how different I look from each perspective? So that's the idea of what perspective is. What does settle down mean? Settle down. So settle down, most commonly used by teachers dealing with small children. So settle down means to become calm. So if you're really active, oh, you know how little children are, reactive. You want them to settle down, to become calm, to become settled. So to settle means to become even, calm, not high and low, not moving, but okay, I'm settled. So settle down means to come to a resting point. So that's the idea of settle down. That's a good question. Hello, sir. I'm from Iraq. My question is, what is the difference between an American accent and a British accent? And what is the best? Well, it's not really, you can't really say that one is the best because it depends on what context, what situation. You can learn whatever way is comfortable for you. The difference between accents is it really comes down to the difference between ways that words are pronounced. I can't give an example of the British accent because my British friends say that my British accent is terrible. They don't believe it. They say, oh, it doesn't really sound like British accents. It's not correct. So I can't give you a good example for that. But if you watch a movie like a James Bond movie, James Bond speaks with a British accent. And if you watch an American movie like the Avengers movies, they usually speak with American accents. So that'll give you an idea about the difference. One feeling among a lot of English speakers, even in America, is that the British accent, depending on which British accent, but most British accents are felt to sound more sophisticated, and American accents sound more egalitarian or friendly, right? So British accents sound more high class, and American accents sound more normal. I don't know if that's true, but that might be one difference between them. Okay, so, all right, let me see if there's a thing. What is the meaning of reckon? I like that question. What is the meaning of reckon? Okay, so I reckon. Reckon means to consider or think about something. You can say, and it's used in an interesting way. So you can say, can you reckon, mean consider or think about or figure out, can you reckon how far it is to go? And then you would say, I reckon it's about 50 miles. So meaning I consider or I think. But people can also say something like, they can tag or add at the end of the sentence, I reckon, meaning to indicate it's my opinion. So you can say, that was a pretty good movie, I reckon. So you add I reckon at the end of it to mean I think, it was my opinion. So it's a way of just indicating that you don't want it to sound too bold, like, oh, that was a great movie. But that was a great movie, I reckon, meaning it sounds more friendly maybe to say it that way. So that's reckon. That's a good question. Does it matter if someone has a mixed accent? No, I don't think so. It may sound a little strange, but people will understand you, and they'll probably also understand that it is kind of a mixture of different things. In my experience, most people don't really get a mixed accent. They'll gravitate towards one or the other. But I don't think it matters much. I mean, the main thing is you want to be understood. And you will be understood even with a mixed accent. All right. What is the difference between look for, seek, and find? Wow. Okay. So look for, seek, and find. So to look for and seek kind of have the same meaning. The big difference is that look for is more of a ordinary language expression, and seek is more of a formal or poetic or more higher level word. So, for example, if you're in the library and and somebody might say, what are you looking for? You might say, oh, I'm looking for a book about gardening. You wouldn't say, I'm seeking a book about gardening. That would sound extremely elevated for the context. It would sound a little strange. But let's say you need help. You need spiritual help, spiritual guidance. You might go to a religious leader and say, sir, I seek spiritual guidance. You could say, I'm looking for guidance. You could say that, but you're looking for something important, and it's a significant context. In that kind of situation, you might say seek, because you're looking for something, but you're looking for something elevated, something significant, important. So you might say, sir, I seek spiritual guidance. So that's kind of the difference between look for and seek. Find means you found it. You got it. So I'm looking for a book on gardening. I found it. I found means you got what you wanted. You got what you were looking for or seeking. So that's where find comes in. Okay, so there you go. So someone is asking, Thomas Stuka is asking, can we depend on songs in order to improve our English? Yes, you can. Actually, learning from songs is a great way to improve your English. So I have known a few students who were good at English and they're good at speaking English. One of the reasons was they loved songs, English songs. And they got a good feeling of the rhythm of how English sounded and how English should sound from songs. So also if you enjoy it, so if you enjoy listening to music in English, you're more likely to do it. And anything that you're more likely to do, you're more likely to get better at. So absolutely, you can use songs to improve your English. Certainly. Yeah, I certainly encourage that. Let's see, seeking a job. Yes. So job seeking. Absolutely. Because in that context, you could say, I'm looking for a job. So it'd be okay to say, I'm looking for a job. I'm seeking a job. Yes. In that case, both of them kind of work. Seeking asylum. Again, yes. Seeking asylum. You could also say, I'm looking for asylum, but seeking is a little bit better because that's a more significant thing that you're looking for, right? You're looking for asylum, meaning a place to live that's new, but for protection. So yeah, so seeking asylum is absolutely a good use of seek there as opposed to look for. Okay. How can I practice to rapidly improve listening skill or score? Okay, so during short moment. Okay, so let's go back to the music thing. Listening to songs, absolutely, is a good way to do. And I would say it might help to listen to somewhat older songs, like one popular singer, not necessarily for the style of music, but for the way he pronounces English, is John Denver. So I know a lot of my Chinese students knew John Denver songs because the way he pronounces the English words when he sings is very pure and very clear. And his style it's not offensive. I mean, it's a very easy style to listen to. So it's not exciting, like his music isn't like very exciting, but the English is very clear. So that's something that you can do is that. But another thing that I've seen some students do to get better in English is online games. So if you like to play games online, you could sometimes type in the chat, or if they have a vocal component, you could throw some English in there. You have to be careful with that though, because sometimes people playing the game, they just want to play. They don't want to help you learn English at the same time. So that might be difficult. But listening to music is something you can do on your own, and it can definitely help. And you can do it whenever you want, a few minutes at a time, get better day by day. This is an interesting question. How can we use the word nonplussed? Okay, so how do you use the word nonplussed? So when you're nonplussed, it means you don't know what to do. You don't know how to react to something. It's usually commonly used to describe someone. And so it's usually going to be used along with the verb to be. So you'll often use it where, like, I was nonplussed, meaning as a way of describing your condition when something happened. When I saw the accident, I was nonplussed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to respond. She was nonplussed when she saw the accident. Same thing. So she was, or she is. She's nonplussed. Look at her. She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know how to respond. So that's a common way to use that word as a way of describing someone's state. All right. Here's one that I'm going to do because I love it. Hello, sir. What makes the words its, I-T-S, and the words its, I-T apostrophe S different? Okay, the word I-T apostrophe S is a shortened version of it is. So its, I-T apostrophe S, means it is. Its does not mean it is. It is the possessive, meaning, okay, so let's say I'm talking about my phone. I would say, oh, this phone is pretty good. Its memory is very high. So the memory that it has, its memory is very high. It has a lot. So it possesses it. So its, ITS, is a possessive. IT apostrophe S means it is. That's the difference. So if you see that little mark there, it means it is. That's the difference there. So someone is remarking that I think the American accent is more dominant nowadays. Do you think so? Yes, and there are several reasons for this. One reason is America is just a larger country. There's 350 million Americans, so they're going to speak with American accents. Great Britain has about 50 or 60 million, maybe a little more, but so it's a little smaller. Not as many people speaking it. But another reason is Hollywood, movies and television. Great Britain makes movies as well, but there's a lot more movies that are shown around the world made in Hollywood, and it's usually American movies, and they're usually going to be speaking with American accents. So I would say that's probably why. And then songs. There's a lot of popular singers singing in English, and they're often Americans or Canadians. So Canadians have a very similar accent to the American accent. So there's also Canada, where they'll also kind of have an American accent. So that's another 30 million people who speak kind of with an American accent. So I would say that's why. I'd say that's why the American accent is pretty dominant. Okay, let's see. Let's see. How can let's see. Okay. Vyacheslav Brewer is asking, what is the difference between in mind and on mind? On mind. Well, on mind, you're actually not going to use it that way usually. So one big difference is you're going to use it. You're usually going to use the possessive in between. You're going to say on my mind. So you would often say something like this: I've got something on my mind, and that means that you're thinking about something. It's in your mind. It's in your thoughts. So I've got something on my mind, or I'm keeping you on my mind. So I'm keeping you in my thoughts. But you could also say I'm keeping you in mind, meaning in my mind. So in that case, there's some overlap there. There's some overlap in terms of meaning, keeping something in mind. But usually, I would say the difference between in and on. In is it's in there, it's inside. On is more the feeling like it's resting on top. It's on my mind, meaning it's at the top. It's right there. It's right there what you're thinking about. In mind means it's inside and it's not going away. So here, let me show you a difference in how you would use it. I would say when I go on my trip, I'm going to keep you in mind. That means when I'm on my trip, you will still be in my thoughts. And the other thing is I've got to talk. I've got something on my mind. That means it's at the top. It's right there, and I've got to get it out, right? So I wouldn't in that context say, I've got something in mind. I would say, no, it's on my mind. It's weighing on me. It's on top. It's something that's at the top. It's right in my thoughts. I have to get it out. So that's probably the big difference there. All right. Could you recommend some good and easy books to read? Well, in fact, I can. I published 2 books on Amazon, Learn English Through Stories. And you can read, there's 2 volumes, volume 1 and volume 2. And what I did with these books is they're short stories. Each story is about 150 to 200 words long, and they're written in 3 different grammatical versions: a very simple grammatical version, an intermediate grammatical version, and then a natural English version. So they're easy to read. You can read them in 5-10 minutes. And test your English. You can read all 3 versions probably in 5-10 minutes. And there's 16 stories in each book, real easy to get. And it's an easy way if you don't want a whole novel to get through. Now, if your English is more advanced than that, you're going to want to read something more advanced, in which case I would recommend something like a novel by Charles Dickens. Great novel, really interesting stories. Easy to read, very popular, and the English is just beautiful. So you could check that out. Or you can read short stories by Arthur Conan Doyle about Sherlock Holmes. So those are kind of fun and shorter stories to read. So those are my recommendations. So if you're advanced in English, try some short stories of Sherlock Holmes or novels of Dickens. Or if you're still learning, still kind of an intermediate level, try out some of my books. Okay, there you go. All right. All right, I think that's about it for today. I hope I answered most of your questions. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next live stream. All right, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.